Hi, and welcome to my walkthrough for my December Daily 2021 album, or I guess I should say albums, since I needed to use 2 albums this year. And I chose the 10x8 format for something a little bit different, and I'm very glad that I did. It turned out to be such a fun-sized canvas to work on. Let's get started. The first page that I have is my reason why page. It's almost a full page photo that I placed on a patterned paper background. And between the two, I tucked my little tags with my different reasons for working on December Daily this year. My page 1 is here. Over here, I placed a calendar, and I still don't know what I want to do here. Originally, I wanted to place some photos. Then I rethought the whole process and thought I would just include some of my handwriting. Right now, I'm just going to leave that go. And I think that going forward, something will spark my imagination, and I will definitely fill that in. Page 1 is a little sliding page that I created. I did a little process video on this if you're interested on my YouTube channel. Story number 2 is my son's birthday. He wasn't here with me for that day. I decided that I would create a little grid with some twine and different pictures through the years of birthday celebrations. This particular pocket, this craft pocket, is from last year's release, as is this card. So in the pocket, I have my story on the card, and then a photo that he sent me on his birthday of him and a friend down at college. So I thought that was fun because I didn't think I would have a picture for that day. Story number 3 was from the Product Play Classroom. I believe creative team member Barbara did this one. Loved these trees, loved them, had to do it, and I decided I would put 1 tree here, 2 here, using patterned paper from this year. Inside of my pocket, I have a photo of my little Christmas tree, the story on top with vellum. And then I included this picture of my newest kitten, who was just enamored with my tree this year, immediately. So I had to have that photo in there as well. It was a really fun story to tell. My other cats don't care so much about the tree. Story number 4, I created a pocket on the opposite side using more of the patterned papers. This was a felt number from last year's release. And then I created a card to hold my story inside the pocket. And then on this side, it was half photo and then half, I guess, die cut and some stars backed with some patterned paper. I think I also did a little process video on that on my YouTube channel as well. Story number 5 is a full page photo of me and my friend. We got to sit on Santa's lap, so I wanted to include that with this wonderful digital stamp that Allie did before the December Daily release of these just so cute handwritten letters that I was able to manipulate around my picture. I had such a good time with that. Opposite that is a page protector, and I folded it. I'll show you what it looks like opened. The ribbon is Velcro so that you don't have to untie it. And then I stitched together by hand 3 individual 3x8 page protectors with some green twine so that it would fold up like a present when I wrap it. And then the opposite side has more photos as well as my little story. That was also fun to create as well. I like that we can be very crafty or we can be very simple, and it just is such a wonderful combination of different I guess, different techniques, right, that we can use during December Daily that we don't often use during the course of a year. When you flip that over, I have a transparency where I created a Christmas tree shape with photos of all of my family members. I added some of these wonderful enamel dots that I've had in my stash for so long. It was wonderful to use those. Some of them were still sticky, believe it or not, and they are probably 10 years old. When we flip over the transparency on the opposite side, I created little story cards to tell what I am thankful for about each of the individuals on the opposite side. And then I created my larger story on its own page. And this I did by creating a tree shape in PSE and then formatting my words to fit inside of that shape. That was a lot of fun as well. Story 7 is about my niece's or my great niece's dance recital. I was just looking to do some sewing and some watercoloring, and I was looking to be crafty, so I cut out these stars, watercolored them, added additional stars on top of them. The opposite is a story, the actual story, which was printed directly on my photo. And then I used this wonderful die cut that was in the main kit. And they were a lot of fun to work with as well. Let's see. Story number 8. I just created a bunch of different pockets out of different patterned paper. Some of them I cut hearts out of so you can see through. Others I added hearts on top. And then each pocket has a story inside of it. So there's a photo and then a little story on the opposite side. And it was kind of one of those little around here. What is going on around here at this time of year? Everyday kind of things. Also, what's going on around here, I did an in the news page, used the large felt 9 on top of a plastic sheet and a little in the news word art. Flipping that over, I used the digital version of the felt numbers to format my story inside of the 9 so that I can put them back to back. And then I wanted to include a little description of each of the stories that I have on the opposite page. So I made this little tag and numbered them 1 through 9 and basically just listed what was showing in each photo. I put a little ribbon on top of that and it just slides underneath there so it can be pulled out to see what each story was. Story number 10, I made a lot of mistakes on, and one of the biggest mistakes was punching the holes on this side when they really should have been over here. So this page ended up being a filler page, and I used a digital stamp from, I think it was the December stories by the month, and I just repeated it on white cardstock, turned one of the phrases into a red color, added a star, and that filled that side of the page. This was a story 10 about my dad finishing his radiation therapy, a little party, a little surprise party that we had for him. These pockets were so fun this year. I enjoyed them and hoping that they are released in a different form next year because there were so many more ideas that I could have gone with for these pockets. Inside of each pocket, I have a little story. And then on the opposite side, I put a photo. On top of the pockets, I created little shaker pockets and stars, 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 and a number 10. That was a plastic piece. I know it's from Allie, but I cannot for the life of me remember where it's from. I was just thrilled to have it. So I placed that inside of the shaker pocket as well. There was one thing that I forgot when I did this page, and it was a family photo that we had taken, and I wasn't sure how I was going to incorporate that into this page. So what I did was, in the space between the vellum and then the background, I was able to slide my photo, which was all of us. We kind of dressed like my dad that day. He always wears sweatpants and a flannel shirt, and so every one of us did exactly the same thing. It was a lot of fun to set up the camera and take this family photo of all of us together. Didn't want to leave it out, so sliding it underneath, putting a little tab on it seemed like a great idea. And that definitely worked for me. Again, made another mistake, or maybe it wasn't a mistake, but I knew I wanted to do ho, ho, ho. I created this in Photoshop Elements and then cut it out on my Cameo, but I wanted it to come on this side. So all I did to fill this was take one of these wonderful pieces of 10 by 8 paper, attached it to the back of the last page, and that was it. It's perfect. It doesn't need any embellishing because the writing and the words itself are just so lovely. And when you flip over my die cut, you will see that I have a little story here, another die cut. And then I just kind of liked how this looked with nothing other than this piece of paper behind it. So that's one of the other reasons why I kind of left that alone. This being white, I wanted to give it a little bit of color, so I just stamped using the star stamps with 2 different colored greens. My photo is on this side. It is in a page protector, and the only thing I added to that was a canvas phrase and a puffy gold star. And I just kind of liked how our faces showed through with Santa Claus there. Story number 12. Yes, story number 12. It was our holiday. We went out shopping together and we just made an entire day of it into the evening. This was a photo I took of the decorations at the mall. I used stickers to add holiday and put a pleather heart in place of the O. I added a canvas piece, and then this was from, I believe, Jenny Ray. She used this pattern paper grid on an angle, and I fell in love. So I copied that from her as well. These little circles are attached with loop pins. So I thought that added a little dimension to it. Story number 13, I did a map, and it's basically of the eastern and southern part of the United States, connecting Texas and Pennsylvania, documenting how we miss our relatives in Texas during this holiday season. And over here, I made it look like a letter, and in between, I sandwiched a little letter that I wrote. So that'll be a fun little surprise to pull out in years to come and to read about what I had to say to our family. And then finishing off this album with story number 14. This is from one of the pages that Allie created for her album this year. She had a puzzle in a circle, and she cut the middle out, and I fell in love. And as soon as I saw it, I knew I had this photo from an adventure that we had going to visit a tavern with some friends. And I thought, I can do that. I can cut that circle out and flip it up and reveal my journaling as well as a picture of all of us from that day. And so thanks to Allie for that amazing idea. That brings me to my second album. Again, I was very fortunate. There was a lovely acquaintance that had another album to spare. So I was thrilled that I was able to get another album just like my first to match for this holiday season. And this album begins with day 15 or story 15 because I didn't go by days. And that's just something I wanted to point out. I did not go by days. I did not go chronological. Whatever story came out of me that day for that story was what I went with. I wasn't so concerned about making sure that I had a photo and a story for every single day of December. I just had stories to tell. So I decided to tell them in whatever order came whatever order came next. So this page was, I believe Pam Baldwin did one like this a few years ago in the product play classroom. And I loved how when you lift the page, the photos kind of spin around. So on one side, let's put this down nicely as they spin. See how they just spin however they want, but it's fun. It's fun. I'm good with it because I enjoy it a lot. On this side, I have photos of my family members, the little ones in our family, and the little story of enjoying Christmas through their eyes. And then when I flip it over, you will see that I have their names with their ages as well as what they wished for Christmas. So I thought that was really fun. And again, getting inspiration from other creative team members or other community members has just been such a blessing and so wonderful to take their ideas and translate them to our own. Story 16 was a story about my kitty Lola, who was taken for a haircut. She's a beautiful cat. I do have a picture in the pocket of her prior to her haircut right here. She's a beautiful cat, but she's still beautiful. And the whole story was quite long. So it's actually on several different cards, 4 to be exact. I creased them so that they can be bent up. And I just added some, a die cut and then a metal piece on here. Again, it was fun to document this story. It was on my heart that day, and it definitely helped me to feel better. I felt guilty because I was taking all her hair away, but she ended up being happier in the end. Right here, I just have the date on this card, and then I found this little saying, "Beauty is only skin deep," and it made me chuckle. So I crossed out skin and I put fur because she's beautiful with or without her fur. And I wanted to get that across. Loved doing this page. Story 17 is full pages of stamping right here. Loved these stamps this year, and I wanted to add them in. Of course, stamping this year has been so much fun. I was introduced to it this year, and it's grown on me. So I had to add some in. This was about my movies that I'm watching. So one of the tags, I used the attachers to put them in, flipping it over to this tag that lists in order from the most liked to the least liked holiday movie. And then I used a page protector that was 9 by 12, but I cut the third row off so that I could put it in the album. And those are just photos from the internet of the movies that I watched. Story 18 was about being done with school, and this school year has been tough. So I was thrilled to get some time off from work. I put a 5 by 7 page protector here on top of a stamped page. These speech bubbles, which I think are so fun, printed them, cut them out after I added some word art, and then my story comes out. Underneath, some things I was saying goodbye to, my photo, and then my story. That was a lot of fun to create as well. Anything with stamping for me these days is just so much fun. So glad that I am getting involved more in that. Story number 19 is my baking story. I did an individual walkthrough of this page. If you look at this page, I put the number on top of one of the cookies, and there's a little tab here that when you pull out, it shows the steps while baking the cookies. And I thought that was a lot of fun. And then when you're done, you just push it back in and the cookies fill the holes again. There we go. The half circle die cut was used here for the story. And then I used the digital version to print out the ingredients in my cookie recipe. Story 20 was a pocket I had created last year, didn't use it, and just so happens a picture that my niece sent to me of my great niece. When I printed it the size of a tag, it just fit perfectly to make her look like the little snowman. So I have my words I believe this was Cascade ink. I made some snow, and then I used some letter stamps, sliding that in. I originally intended for that to be what shows, but when I put this photo in and I saw how perfectly it lined up, I just thought, oh, that has to stay like that. And every time I flip through, it just makes me happy to see that. I needed a filler for here. So this was some word art from a previous year. I just printed it, adhered it, a wooden star, and a phrase. Story 21, the background is a menu from TGI Fridays. It's what we do on Christmas Eve. And these wonderful canvas pockets, cork numbers, pleather heart, and then these just have the story and a photo, and then the story and a photo. That was a lot of fun. Easy to put together, but yet fun. And someone had pointed out on Instagram or on Facebook how nice and neat it will be to look back and see some of the prices of things from years ago compared to how they're going to be in the future. That was really fun to do. Story 22 is my wrapping story, a piece of vellum on top of a photo of my wrapping paper. I did this in PSE, and I loved this little candy piece. It was from one of the 10x8 papers. So I just punched it out and I added it on top of the O, and it's just one of my favorite, most simple things. Story 23, kind of used some twine attached with some larger brads, and then I just hung photos and die cuts and plastic hearts all through the whole page. This was a wooden piece from last year that I was determined to use, and I just put my journaling underneath. I ended up putting a small piece of Velcro to attach the wooden tag to the page. It was flopping around a lot. It's very easy to do. I think these I got from Amazon, very simple. But I loved this page. It was a fun story to tell about a night out with friends. 24, story number 24, I used one of Allie's amazing digital templates, and I was able to add a photo for each story, and I was able to include 20 stories. I used the felt 22 and 4 to create a 24. A year in review is a rubber piece from the review story kit, and each of these I punched out separately because I wanted a little bit of dimension. And that was fun to do. I think in the template they were red and I changed them to green. I do plan on doing a year in review page going forward in all of my December dailies. It was just so fun to look back on the different moments, and a little tough to choose. A whole year, we have a lot of memories, but I went through, picked out the ones that I wanted to include. And so this was attached directly to the rings and one of the chipboard speech bubbles on the opposite side. I finished off with my 25th story. This was a 10x8 page with a grid on a watercolor background. Cut out my photos to fit inside each square. Created some journaling on white cardstock. This Taking It All In stamp is an old one from Allie. Might have been when she was collaborating with Technique Tuesday. I've had it for a long time. Loved the sentiment, taking it all in. That's what I was doing, taking it in and enjoying every moment this year. Opposite is a piece of vellum, and this is a piece from the Star Quarterly Kit with this little tag. This came with the main kit this year, the 25. I put Christmas 2021 word art, and that gets tucked into the little pocket. I thought that was fun. I ended up backing my vellum with a piece of plastic. This is a little heavy with the star as well as the fabric piece. So I just went ahead and backed that with some plastic and then put a couple stars opposite, just because there was some adhesive that you can see. This is a picture from Christmas of all the little ones and everyone helping them open their presents. I turned it to black and white. It was super busy with color, so I turned it to black and white to make it a little more subdued. I cut these stars out of one of the 10 by 8 papers, did some typing on them, and then also some stamping, remembering, enjoying, and savoring. For the last page, I just basically created a collage and used some photos from New Year's Eve, turned them black and white. I added the Goodbye 2021 word art. I know it's not a word art that you can get together. I got the Goodbye from one set and the 2021 from last year's word art for 2021. Added a little star in the middle. And that was the end of my December daily. I had such a wonderful time putting it together, and I'm so grateful for all of the support that I had from the community. You guys made this just, it's so wonderful when I know I'm inspiring somebody else in some way, no matter how little it is. I'm a teacher, so if I could teach scrapbooking for a living, I definitely would. But if I can just give ideas out to the community and, sorry, my cat just tried to photobomb us. It's just wonderful to share. Basically, I love getting ideas from others and I love helping others get ideas. If at any point in time you have any questions about anything that you've seen in my album, feel free to reach out to me. I would love to hear from you guys. Otherwise, I guess I will see you again in 2022. Hopefully, I will do another December daily and we will be able to document another wonderful year in the life. Thank you, everyone, and have a great day.